everyone. It's great to be here with you to talk about an exciting travel opportunity that the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg is offering to people in our region and beyond. But it's really a special delegation that we are leading from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to Prague in the Czech Republic. And I have some people I'd like to introduce you to, namely Shoshana Altrichter first, because she's the one who's helping us pull all of this together. Welcome, Shoshana.
Hi, Joyce, and hi to your viewing audience. It's great to be back on Travel Live with you again.
Yes, it is. We during these COVID months and the COVID shutdown, we did a lot of travel lives for the World Affairs Councils of America when Shoshana was at the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, which handled much of the travel for our entire network. So it's great. But tell us now, I'm going to introduce our other two people, and I'll come back to you to tell us about your company now. But Michelle Angert, many of you already know, is our program director for the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, Joyce. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about Prague.
I'll bet you are. Michelle's being kept busy because our summer internship is underway, and we have a bunch of high school and college students that are keeping us very busy. And we have, of course, Russell Goodman, who everybody knows is my husband, but we have him on here for a very special reason. I think he spent some time in Prague. Welcome, Russell.
Thank you very much. Did spend a number of years there and looking forward, I got to say, to visiting once again. Also looking forward to this program today. Let's just get it going.
Let's get it going and let's look at some pictures. But Shoshana, before we do, tell us about what you're doing now. You're helping us organize what we're going to have a special delegation between October 11th through 17th. Those are the dates that we will be traveling as a council to Prague. Shoshana, tell us how you're helping. Oops, you got to unmute. There you go.
I got it. So I started this business about a year and a half ago, Winding Way Travel, where I'm focusing on customized tours for other World Affairs Councils, nonprofits, universities, even for some families. I love the heart of Michelle, and where I get to still, incorporate my passion and love and travel, but take it to other institutions who maybe, like the Harrisburg Council wants to do a more exclusive delegation opportunity, or other nonprofits that, always have wanted to offer a travel program exclusively for their members, for their donors, but haven't had the means to do so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see we've got getting some hearts there from people who've signed on to our webinar. Hajir Sheikh is here with us, and she's one of our delegation that's going to be heading to Prague. So, Michelle, I know you're going to handle the PowerPoint side of this. Why don't you pull that up now and let's get started to talk about what we are likely to see in this beautiful city of Prague. Okay, so here we are. This is the basis of it. Shoshana, thankfully, has given us a wonderful title of Discover Prague. Well, for some of us, the people on this call with us today and on this webinar, we actually have discovered Prague. But we're going to be sharing our insights and also taking some of our World Affairs Councils in our region on this special delegation tour to Prague, October 11th through 17th. And what we're going to show you now is what we know about this city. I lived there, as did Russell, for more than 5 years, I guess about 5 years, when I worked for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, based in Prague. And that is U.S. International Broadcasting, our attempt to try to provide news and information to what we call closed societies around the world. And my countries were Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Central Asia. But we'll get into a little bit more of that because one of the places we're going to visit is Radio Free Europe. So let's get into the pictures, Michelle. Let's see the next one. So there you have it. It's called A City of 100 Spires. And Michelle, I know you were there for a little while too, more than just a week. Do you think it holds that title well, The City of 100 Spires?
I think it does. And it It's certainly a place when you go, especially up on where the castle is and look down over the city, and it's all the red roofs and yeah, definitely a lot of spires, lots of churches, really old churches, beautiful. Definitely, yeah, City of Hundred Spires.
And Russell, do you remember this view?
I remember this view quite well. I remember walking across that bridge on many, many occasions. To the left, as you look at that picture, you'll see you'll go up the hill to the Rachani Castle. To the right, you go into the really lovely downtown plaza area there. So no matter which way you go, it's going to be a delightful walk.
No matter which way you go. And Shoshana, I think you have arranged. You can go to the next one, Michelle. Shoshana, I think you have arranged to make sure that we see a little bit that the people who are coming have a tour of some of this, correct?
Yeah, so most of the flights from the Harrisburg area will get you in later the evening, the day before. So you get in a little bit early, so you will have a full day of exploring. There'll be an organized group tour in the morning, and then you'll have the afternoon for free time to hit up some of these highlights that we didn't cover on our walking tour.
And I will tell you, Prague is an eminently walkable, this old town area. I mean, you can really easily walk and see so much beautiful architecture and history and a lot of history. But I will tell you, you guys may laugh at me, but this arched stone bridge like this, when I came to Harrisburg and I saw the arches of that bridge that, that cross, well, I know he's laughing, but it reminds me of Prague. It really, really does. Those arches over the Susquehanna are quite like the arches over the Volga River. So, to the next one, Michelle. And there you have it. There's another fantastic view of the city. And we have seen the city because if you live in Prague, as we did for 5 years, you see it during the best weather and you see it during the worst weather, and you see a lot of foggy weather. Am I right, Russell? I mean, it spans the gamut.
Well, of course it does. One thing it's to note about the bridge. This is a walking bridge. No vehicles are allowed on this.
Mhm.
So you are really, as you're walking along slowly, you're taking in the atmosphere. And again, no matter which way you go, you are among some of the most beautiful architecture in all of Europe. It's really quite lovely. But you'll spend quite a while just standing on the bridge, looking up and down, the vault of a river, because lots going on. And by the way, no matter which way you look from the bridge, you're going to see other beautiful bridges, both to your right and to your left.
Absolutely right. Michelle, I know you as a student. Tell us about the time you spent in Prague.
I think I have a pretty interesting story about being in Prague because I was there during COVID. So
Oh, yes.
I have a very different experience, I think, than other people, but I have been, before that and after that I have been back. So I have the usual tourist experience. But Prague as a student was a wonderful place to be a student. It was difficult during COVID, I must say, but we did get a chance to go up to the castle. We went on day trips around the Czech Republic. It's a really beautiful country, and I'm really excited for all of you that are getting to go to really experience what a wonderful place Prague is.
Yeah. So during COVID, you were at least able to get out and walk on the Charles Bridge from time to time, I'm hoping, right?
Yes, yeah, and I have beautiful pictures of no tourists, no people on the bridge because no one was able to travel around the world. So lots of my pictures are really, really nice, almost like professional quality. I closed the bridge to get them, but yeah, it was because no one else besides the people living there were able to go out.
Wow. Well, as you'll see here, it says that as we know, Prague is indeed the capital of the Czech Republic, although now it seems like it's been renamed Czechia. That's why I put Czechia up here. We'll have to find out a little bit more when we get there about whether all Czechs are united on Czechia or Czech Republic. But that's what it's called. And some of the top places after you get through this Charles Bridge, after you pull yourself away from that, you can head into what they call the Old Town Square. And by the way, this bridge, as you see here, was completed in 1402. but I'm hoping it's been maintained pretty regularly since then because it seems to be in good shape.
That's why they don't allow vehicles to drive across it.
There you go. But you see those spires at the as you're headed walking to that. That is truly how it looks. It just is an incredible sight. Go ahead, Michelle, for the next one. And there you see it a little bit clearer. And I can't think of any. I mean, Shoshana, I know you've been all over the world, but this has to be one of the world's most spectacular sights when you're stepping off of that bridge and walking toward the old city.
Yeah, I've been to many other cities around Prague, but haven't made it there yet myself.
Oh,
So,
you have to come
um,
with us then.
yeah.
Yep, it is truly, truly, truly. And I see we're joined by Pastor Paul Amara. Welcome, Pastor. I know he's traveled all over the world and spends a good time in Europe as well. You should come with us to Prague, Pastor. We'd love to have you. All right, Michelle. You can, as you can also see, there are statues all along the way, and these statues, some of them are religious statues as well. And there's one spot I don't know where you're supposed to go and rub something. I can't remember exactly what it is. Do either of you know, Russell or Michelle? There's a you rub it and it brings you good luck on some statue, right?
Yeah, there's a dog, a little
Okay.
copper dog, sort of, it's like a flat raised copper dog, and you'll see it's really shiny because everyone touches it. But yeah, that's what you're supposed to rub for good luck as you cross the bridge.
So we'll have to
The,
make sure we do that. Did you remember that, Russell, or that slipped your mind?
it's coming back to me now, but what I wanted to say, as you mentioned, some of the statuary that you see on the bridge there, some of those are saints in the Catholic Church. Czechia or Czech Republic is nominally a Catholic country, by the way, although you will find that observance there is, as in much of Western Europe, not that great. But, you know, as we've been talking about the Gothic churches that you will see, and they're lovely, no doubt about it, the spires that you will see, beautiful, beautiful architecture. Another thing to keep in mind, Prague historically was one of the most vibrant cities for its Jewish population. And there are synagogues there that are absolutely gorgeous, just
Absolutely.
beautiful. And
We're
so
going to get to
the
that.
whole
Yep.
aspect of Prague, you know, not to be overlooked. It's something that should be looked into while
Well,
you're
I'm
there.
glad you brought up the religious and the Jewish because we do have some slides there, but this is a country also that is steeped in religious, let's say history, but also religious tensions. Why don't you go to the next one, Michelle? Um, oh, here, this is actually, we lived not far from here, from Prague Castle, and you can see what a stunning view it really is. I mean, it's just incredible. And this is just one part of the outside of it. And here's the inside. You can actually go in, and we hope we'll have some time. Shoshana will tell us if we'll have time to go inside the castle because you can. It does have an actual permanent exhibition, and just inside you can see the stunning architecture that dates back. But and also gardens around it, so that you can also see inside as well as outside. And of course, millions of tourists come each year from throughout the world and it is just not something to be missed, I would say. Do you remember fond views of this, Michelle and Russell?
Yes, yeah, definitely going in the castle is one of the highlights. And if you're really into history, there's the defenestration window in the
Oh,
Prague
don't tell
Castle,
us about that. Yes.
which is really interesting, where they used to throw people out of the window to their
Yes.
death back in the Middle Ages. But yeah, there's tons and tons of history, and it's a really beautiful complex. It's not your typical castle when you think of a castle. The church is obviously the most grand part
Mhm.
of the complex, and then there's sort of like, I guess, a palace sort of around it, which would be the castle and the living quarters. So it's not your typical castle, but it is beautiful. Very nice, yeah.
And
You
on
may have
our
noticed
tour,
that
go ahead,
You
Russell.
may have
Sorry.
noticed the difference in architectural styles in the previous slide, and that's
Mhm.
because a building this old has gone through so many changes architecturally. And that's interesting as you're walking through this complex, which is not small by any means. I
Oh,
would
it's
say that one of the things that goes on there is that they host wonderful musical events. And I truly enjoyed myself there one evening as I was listening to Johnny Griffin, who is one of the finest saxophonists ever to come out of Philadelphia.
I didn't. I wasn't there, I guess, for that one, but that's a good connection. Shoshana, I'm sure our tour is going to include some sort of visit to the castle.
Oh, yeah, for certain. Yeah, we would definitely be hitting that up on our walking tour.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see what we have next. The next wonderful picture that we have. Ah, yes, the Golden Lane. This is another wonderful part of the city, and look how just charming these little houses look. They say it take this is a village that will take you back to medieval times. These are tiny little the rooms now are like museums and galleries where artisans and craftsmen once lived, but there's still some shops and things along there. And guess where building number 22 is? We'll have to make sure you visit that because Franz Kafka's sister, it was her home, and he actually wrote in that home for a while, for a period. So I don't know if we have any Kafka lovers out there, but it's worth, we will definitely, I think, be walking down this little lane during our trip. You can go on, Michelle. Okay, and now this is probably my favorite. And Shoshana, I know we have this on our tour, right? So this is Old Town Square. What and right here on this side where you can see the astronomical clock that kind of dings once an hour and has a little show for the tourists. You see outside the different cafes that are there. And it's just a splendid, splendid sight to step into. I will say this, as you can go to the next one, Michelle. I will say that this is one of the cities that when I stepped into this square and I saw that, I truly was breathless. I just couldn't believe what I was beholding. So, Russell, Michelle, you want to chime in here on your views of Old Town Square?
I think it's one of the most beautiful areas in the city. But because it is centrally located,
Hmm.
when you begin to then walk away from it in pretty much any direction you go, you know, very shortly, just a block or so from here is the Vinogrady area. Lovely, absolutely lovely area there. If you walk back just a half a block from this plaza, you get back on that bridge and you go into the across the river and you go up to Streshovica, which is all high ground looking out over the city. So from this central point right here, it doesn't make any difference which way you go, you are going to see some really beautiful architecture, lovely, lovely buildings.
It's funny that he said Streshovica because that's where we lived. We lived on Streshovica Osemnach. That's that's how and that this is a language that is
Sounded
not
pretty good to
really
me.
easy, not really easy to grasp. I had studied it for most of the time I was there, but I remember when we first had to get in a taxi and say where we were going, he didn't know what we were talking about. Streshovichka, no, has to be said exactly right for them to understand it. Michelle, I'm sure, did you pick up any Czech while you were there?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, was taking Slovak and Czech before I went,
Oh,
but
good.
definitely it's a really hard language to learn. It's one of the hardest. Most Slavic languages are, and I definitely had some encounters where I was doing my best Czech, and even that was not adequate to get across what I needed to say. So thankfully, everyone that I, had to interact with on sort of like a government level was able to speak English, which was really, really helpful. But yeah, my Czech is not very good. Definitely hope it would be better, but it's not.
Well, I know Shoshana has made sure that our guides, the people who are going to be good English speakers, right, Shoshana?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So
That's
yeah,
important.
but I still maintain a little bit of my Czech, although I've been now brushing up and studying. I have the book there nearby. I can check it, but it truly is an extraordinary language to step into. How about going to the next one? All right, so here's another view. You can see how just absolutely stunning it is. And you know, I don't know if you've done it, Michelle, but to sit in those cafes and simply while away a little bit of time, just having coffee and looking around and just taking it in, that's really what travel often is about, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I definitely with friends just sitting in those cafes, just people watching and watching all the people gather to look at the clock when it chimes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's really one of the best places in Prague. Yeah.
Now, one of the things we neglected to say is that at least the Czechs say that there's a spot in the center of Old Town Square that's also, they claim, the center of Europe. And it's actually marked there with a little bit. So we'll see. I don't know if they're right, but that's what they claim. And this Old Town Square is actually located between what is called Wenceslav Square and the Charles Bridge. So I used to work in Wenceslav Square. That's where Radio Free Europe's offices were located. And I lived in Streshovica. And I would walk frequently, many times from my work back to my house and pass all of this on a regular basis. I think I was in better shape then than I ever was with all the walking. And I see we have a comment here that from Jackie, who just, I think she's just come back, says public transport is free for over 65. Yay! Even foreigners, and very easy to use in Prague. That's a good point, Jackie. Thank you for sharing that. And it is important to say, Michelle, I'm sure you know this, and I know Russell did that, you really don't need a car unless you're going out into the outskirts because
Right.
the public transportation is so efficient.
It is. Mhm.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, even the day trips we were taking, we never rented a car. We just took trains. But within the city of Prague itself, you can't beat the public transportation. It's cheap, inexpensive, and it runs pretty much to the time it's supposed to run. And yeah, you can't really fault it. No.
And I know a lot of people like doing the metro, but I really enjoyed the trams. I
Hmm.
loved getting on it. And generally, the trams could get me almost everywhere I wanted to go to. Right,
Yeah.
Russell? I mean, I know you had to have a car because our son was going to school in the outskirts, but
Yeah, well, the car was fine if we were taking day trips or something, or going quite a long distance away. But in the city, again, the metro or the trams are terrific. They go everywhere. And let's face it, Prague is not like being in London or in Paris or cities of that size. So really, you can do Prague easily,
yes,
especially given how efficient the transportation system is.
absolutely. Let's see the next one, Michelle. There we go. Wenceslav Square. Now that's a place I knew well because I would report to work in this square, passing, and I'd walk up that street and head toward the Charles Bridge and cross the Charles Bridge and go through Old Town Square and head over to Streshovica at least once or twice a day. So sometimes to and from work. But this is a nighttime view of it. I think we might have a daytime view next. Well, this is important. Go ahead. This is an important thing. We were talking a little bit more about religious history here, and this is an important figure to know in Czech history, Jan Hus, and there's a memorial standing there in the Old Town Square to Jan. They said Jan Hus, and it depicts the victorious Hussite warriors and Protestants who were forced into exile more than 200 years after Huss, in the wake of what they say the lost Battle of the White Mountain. This was during the 30 Years' War. And Huss became an influential religious thinker, reformer in Prague, and he was a key predecessor to the Protestant movement of the 16th century. So again, you see there's this tension in this Christian history, but the tension between Catholics and Protestants here that led to actually some persecution. I think the defenestrations Michelle was talking about are involved in all of this religious history. But there's his statue, be able to see it as you're walking. Look at that. There's the inside of the Prague Castle. We actually had a friend who was living there, Michelle, inside her apartment. There was a painted ceiling like this. So the architecture here that's been able to be preserved is just remarkable. And you'll see this as you're stepping into the castle exhibition. Ah, yes, the Jewish quarter. And this is what Russell was talking about. It is just clearly there are three main things that you should see. And Shoshana, I do hope this is included. I'm pretty sure it is. We have the old synagogue, we have the Spanish synagogue, and we have the old Jewish cemetery that all are in the area called the Jewish quarter. And this is just a glimpse of how beautiful and how historic this section is. There's a lot of history here, and some of it is not good history, but it is certainly worth visiting and learning about just what this area is about. And at one time, this was one of the most affluent areas of Prague, of the whole country, truly. So, Shoshana, is this on our tour? Do you know? Even if it isn't, we can walk there very easily.
Yeah, I have to double check the timing of it all, but if it's not included as part of the walking tour, certainly there's free time in the afternoon that after our walking tour finishes and you have time in the center of the city in the old town to grab something for lunch, then you could probably head to the Jewish quarter.
Absolutely. And I think it's all easily walkable, so it should
It
not.
is.
How about Russell? Do you remember how do you get there from Old Town Square?
Well, I don't remember which public
Well,
conveyance you take, but again, you can walk there.
yes.
Once you are in the old quarter, believe unless you have walking issues, unless you have disabilities, then it is easy to walk to most any place that we are showing in this slide deck here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Shoshana, we are still how long? Tell us how long are we able to take requests to participate in this? We have a good group that's already signed up. So what is the deadline if someone wanted to get on this tour with us?
We have a good group signed up already, but we are approaching a deadline. The last day to register for the trip would be this Friday, July
Okay.
26th, just because we're getting within 90 days before departure. So, got to lock in those hotel accommodations and all the final details. So yeah, if anyone wants to sign up, we could even probably take reservations after that time, but it would really be best to get in your application by then.
Absolutely. We want to get everyone lined up and ready to go. Go to the next one, Michelle. Let's see what we have. Again, another view of the Jewish quarter. You can see how absolutely phenomenal these buildings are. You're not going to see this anywhere else in the world. This is truly unique to the Czech Republic. And here is the reason that we are going. Okay, we are going to see the beauty of this city, and it is extraordinary. There's nothing to say except that this is a city you should see in your life. But we are going because there's something called Forum 2000. As you know, the World Affairs Councils, they're about helping Americans better understand global affairs, local, national, but really better understanding the world. And I have, when I was living there, came to participate in something called Forum 2000. This was an international affairs forum that brought in just the top thinkers from throughout the world. Václav Havel, who you'll see here on the left, was the former president of the Czech Republic, who had been imprisoned under the Soviet Union when the Soviets were in charge. He was so grateful to the United States for not at that time, yes, Radio Free Europe was broadcasting behind the Iron Curtain, so to speak. And in his prison, he would listen. This was his connection to the world, to listen to the broadcast from Radio Free Europe. So when he became president, and he decided that he would turn over, invite Radio Free Europe to leave Germany, where it had been stationed in Berlin, and to come and set up its headquarters in Prague. And he turned over, this story is so phenomenal. He turned over the old Communist Parliament building to Radio Free Europe at a rent of how much, Russell? Do you remember?
I do. I believe it was all of $1 a year.
All of $1 a year. He was so grateful to the United States. And I have to tell you, you can continue, Michelle. Oh, wait, don't continue because I have to tell you about me in the middle there. I have to tell you that this is one of the places that if I ever felt like I was important, it was here, being with Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, because the whole country, if you said you were with Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, their understanding of what that meant to their quest for freedom was still a part of them. And they were really grateful to the United States and to the broadcasters, many of whom now they're broadcasting to countries around the world, and many of them are risking their lives to do so. And it's a good time for me to point out that one of our reporters, at the time, a Russian reporter, is in prison in Russia. And she has been there for now several months. She was just going back. Her name is escaping me. I don't know, Russell, if you remember, but I'll find it out. She is now been in prison. She was visiting her mother, and but that is the many of these reporters from in the Russia service and Belarus service and all. They really are risking their lives and are really brave to be able to be associated with Radio Free Europe at this time. You can continue, Michelle.
Can I just say one word about Václav Havel?
Yes.
This is a man who served between the time that he was the president of the old Czechoslovakia and then the new Czech Republic, about 13 years. But keep in mind what he was. He was not a politician. This is a man who was a playwright, and he was a novelist, and he was a poet, etc. You know, that's the kind of person that they elected to office, you know, in the Czech Republic, and Prague was always and continues to be a hotbed, if you will, of intellectual ferment. Just so much.
Absolutely. Well, again, I'm glad and I found out Alsu Kumasheva is the reporter who is in prison right now in a Russian jail, and only because of her association with Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. It's Radio Azatika, I think might be the name in Russian, but she is still there and has been there for a while, and we, like all, are calling for her release. But in addition to what Russell just described as the literary and the intellectual just atmosphere of Prague and of this part of the world, music. I can't tell you how wonderful the music is, and to be in some of these castles and to listen. And of course, Mozart not only performed there, but wrote an opera there. And so it is just a place that is, for someone who cares about the arts and cares about culture and cares about just writings and intellectual dialogue, this is the place to be. So, Shoshana, I'm going to turn it over to you now to lay out what it is that the World Affairs Council is offering in connection with your company for our region and for anyone who wants to join us in discovering Prague.
Yes, thank you. I'll drop the itinerary here into the chat. So you lay out right here what's included. The group will be staying at the Holiday Inn Prague, which is a little outside of the city center, but it's a hotel that's close for the Forum 2000 conference. So during the days when you're attending the conference, you'll be able to walk right over to the center, which will be nice for that portion of the tour. But it includes hotel accommodations, breakfast daily, 2 dinners, working on 2 very lovely dinners where you'll experience some local Czech food and some really unique atmospheres. All group transportation, airport transportation based on group flights. That there'll likely be a flight out of Washington, D.C. Either that it will be, from Harrisburg to D.C. Or that you get to D.C. and then fly from there. Entrance fee for sightseeing and coordination of briefings. And I believe on the next slide, you mentioned some of the special briefings that are included as part of the tour.
Absolutely. So what is here is also the picture of where I once worked, which is that old communist parliament building to the left there. My office was on one of those upper floors there. And the one and it was right across from this building here, which is the National Museum. It's not really much to see. There's not much there in that museum, unfortunately. A lot of, I think, maybe remnants of old times, but not really a lot of beautiful paintings. Those are other places you have to go for that. But that was the old building. The new one is to the right. And that's the one we will be visiting for briefings to let us know what's going on at some of these different broadcast services that Radio Free Europe is sending around the world into places like, yes, Iran and Iraq, which is where I was supervising, and still into Russia. There's still a service into Russia. Let Russians know what's really happening. And the Russians are clandestinely listening to these stations even today. They still play a role. So that will be part of our trip to actually go and spend probably at least a half day to a day at Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. And Michelle, would you go back just one or two? I never did tell them about what was that picture at Forum 2000. There you go. The one in the middle is when I was there and I moderated an extraordinary interfaith forum. And as you see to the right, and there were many other great intellectual and religious thinkers there, but that was the Dalai Lama that I was able to spend the day with at that conference. And it was truly, and you can see at the bottom, that was where it was at one time in one of the castles on the river of Altava. Or palaces, I think is what they called it. I don't know. It's now there's a new convention center, so that's where the forum will be this time. But that was an experience I will always remember, being able to be the moderator for a forum of some of the greatest religious thinkers in the world. So you can continue forward, and you now know if you want to join us on this fantastic trip, you can do so. There's still time. Shoshana, repeat what your deadline is.
Yeah, it would be great if you're considering the tour, to sign up ASAP. But certainly by this Friday, July 26th, that for those that are registered and might be on the tour, final invoices will be going out this week. As we're actually within 90 days before departure, we're approaching 60 days.
There you go. So please, if you're thinking of joining us, please let us know that right away. We also are going to be looking for those airfares so that we can travel as a group from Harrisburg and take advantage of the transfers and all of that. So you want to be involved with all of that and to make sure that you're in that group that's leaving from Harrisburg. So again, it's October 11th through 17th. There's our email, walkharrisburg@gmail.com. And if you're on our Facebook page here, you can also send us a message on our Facebook page, and we will, we can pick it up and respond to you that way. So I think, is that the last slide, Michelle? That's it, I think. And we're ready to fly off and to see what Prague is all about. For me, it's going to be a wonderful revisit there. My son spent from 9 to about 14 in the Czech Republic, going to school and getting to know people from throughout the world. There's an international school of Prague there, and just seeing and being a part of this wonderfully rich culture that's there. Thank you. I see the thumbs going up. So do we have any questions from our webinar people? If anybody has any questions, I see Shoshana has put the itinerary in the chat. If you have any questions, you can ask them now. Otherwise, we're going to let you contact us by email or by Facebook, and hope to see you with our tour in Prague. Any last words anybody wants to offer?
See you in Prague.
See you in Prague. There you go. Well, thank you. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing with us your experiences. I know, as she says, she was there during a tough period in COVID, but she got to experience Prague for herself without so many tourists there. So, and there shouldn't be that many tourists there when we're there, Shoshana. It's October, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's not the height of tourist season, so
No.
it will be a lovely time to visit. And just to add that this is a nice small group opportunity, so we definitely hope you'll join and take advantage of this small group tour.
It is a small group tour, and with people that you know, so we'll be able to share, and we'll be able to talk about why our bridge is better than their bridge. Right. So, well, great. Thank you all for joining us. And again, we will see you soon on another Travel Live program. We're going to try to do these a little bit more regularly so that you can learn about the world. And we're going to be working with Shoshana to organize some more trips as well. So, with that, I thank everyone and enjoy your day. See you in Prague. Na shledanou, as they say. Na
Dziękuję.